My name is Cindy Lietzen. I am with Tri-C. I serve in a couple different roles. I work for the college and I head up our construction group, as well as I'm an ACE board member and team member to the programs. And so with that, we've been heavily involved with the different team competitions over the years with ACE Mentor, and in getting involved in the board, have been involved in trying to do a better job of just getting exposure out there as far as the trades and what a great career can be, and really what a great path and benefits are out there for this particular career. So with that, I'm gonna let everyone else introduce themselves. Dan, would you like to go next?
Sure. My name is Dan Sustin. I'm the apprenticeship training coordinator for the Ohio Carpenters Apprenticeship Program here in Northeast Ohio. We've got 4 training centers across Ohio, all in major cities. Northeast Ohio is in Ridgefield, which is midway between Akron and Cleveland. We have one in the Toledo area, Columbus area, and the Cincinnati-Dayton area. Our training center here in Northeast Ohio has about 1,100 apprentices registered currently, and those apprentices make up commercial carpenters, residential carpenters, floor layers, millwrights, pile drivers, and cabinet makers.
Awesome.
So Dan, how many journey persons aside from apprentices? So how many total, what's the total workforce for carpenters in Northeast Ohio?
In Northeast Ohio, while the meeting goes on, I can get that number for you. It is several thousand of us. I know we're part of the Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio Regional Council of Carpenters, and across those 3 states, there are about 30,000 carpenters. Across the United States and Canada, because we're an international union, we have just over 500,000 members. But as I said, as the meeting goes on, I'll get the exact number of journey workers just for Northeast Ohio.
Great. Thank you. Glenn, go ahead and introduce yourself, although I know some people may know you already.
Sure. Glenn Shoemate. I work with an organization called Construction Employers Association. So we work with our employers and our labor partners. So the carpenters, as an example, is one of our labor partners, iron workers, bricklayers, cement masons, tile terrazzo. So we have about 14 trades that we collaborate with on behalf of about 540 employers here in primarily Greater Cleveland. So that, along with education, training, and workforce, will probably be our 3 main areas of focus for our association. Also, we are aligned with a program that Cindy and I are intimately involved in called ACE Mentor Program, which we're in 10 high schools in CMSD, exposing students to architecture, construction, and engineering. And then Cindy and I have also had a chance to participate for the seniors. Any of you who may be a senior, there's a student workforce advisory group program, which we're working with the 1,200 seniors who have not necessarily chosen a career pathway, that we're hosting a series of workshops and sessions to help inform them around the architecture, construction, engineering careers, as healthcare and logistics and medical and others are doing something similar. So great opportunity, and hopefully students and or parents who may be on a call are aware of that opportunity as well. And there's a whole series of experiences coming up in March, 1st through the 26th, that students can learn about. And if you're interested, just, you can chat with me or send me an email at some point and I can connect you to that, all of the sessions that are coming up. But Cindy and I and others have hosted some of those sessions, and we're really sincere about trying to connect and provide students with opportunities, in which really that's what today is.
Great. Thank you. Dave, would you like to give an introduction?
Sure. My name is David Knight. You've got me down as a senior tradesperson, which I think is code for being old. I got about 27 years in the trades. I got into the union a little bit later. I had worked for many years as a non-union carpenter, but just absolutely thoroughly love it. I can't imagine, and I don't mean to, be disrespectful to the other trades, but I can't imagine having this much fun in any of the other trades. So I love what I do.
Great. Well, thank you. And it's going to be great for our students and everyone to hear a little bit about your story in a few minutes. So thank you. And Lauren.
How you doing? I'm Lauren. I am a carpenter journeyman. Currently working for Regency Construction Services. I do interior work. And yeah,
Excellent. Excellent. How long have you been in it?
5 years.
5 years. Great. All right. And so we're also going to hear more about your story coming up in a few minutes. So thank you. I also wanted to acknowledge that we have Terry Rivera on the line as well, who is president and owner of Regency Construction. So thank you, Terry. And with that, we're going to go into sort of the intent and purpose of today. Just, briefly, we were hoping, as Glenn said, to just really give you some exposure and additional information if you're thinking about or not sure what you're going to be doing in your next steps. I know some students know they want to go into a 4-year or 2-year program. In other cases, it's not so clear. And so again, having other family members that have done the 2-year program, it's just we wanted to expose you to what a great and amazing career can be in the trades. Financially, you start working right away, you are earning a good wage, and you continue to, your wages increase throughout the first 4 years. You get exposure to many, many different avenues and cities and states. And it really is a wonderful program from a benefit. You don't have debt, you're not going to come out with debt. You're going to be working and learning. And it's sort of a flow of sort of 3 weeks in the field and then a week in the classroom. And along the way, while you're getting paid, you're also going to be on your way towards getting a 2-year associate program. So, I grew up around steel mills in Indiana, and I grew up with an engineering father and a grandfather who was, he was in the laborers for the U.S. Bridge Company. So a lot of engineering and steel and manufacturing around where I grew up, and you were either working in the cornfields or you're working in steel, and so so we all, got to come through to a different path. And so at the end of this, we'll connect you if you're interested in visiting a training center, if you're interested in a mentor, and if you're interested in possibly putting in an application, we can help connect you to all of that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dan and let Dan, again, just give a little more information about how this particular carpentry trade breaks up into different types of roles. And then after that, we're going to see a brief video as well that will highlight some of that. And then you can hear a little bit from the individual folks we have today, the tradespeople.
Sure. As I said in my introduction, our training center here in Northeast Ohio, we have carpenters, both residential carpenters. A lot of people, when they think of what a carpenter does, they just assume they build houses out of wood. And we do have residential carpenters that build houses, and some are wood, some aren't. But that's a very small portion of what a carpenter actually does these days. Commercial and residential carpenters follow a lot of the same training classes here at the apprenticeship school. They just get a chance to specialize in residential or commercial. But as a whole, carpenters follow blueprints to construct homes, schools, shopping malls, airports, hospitals, sports stadiums, office buildings, restaurants, pretty much anything, any building someone could work in or live in, or any structure they could drive over going home or going to work. Carpenters have a hand in, from the rough stages to the finished stages. Millwrights. Millwrights, they install, maintain, diagnose, and repair industrial machines that usually, are very large. If you think of a power generation, like a power plant, whether it's a nuclear power plant or a newer type of power plant that generates electricity, there's turbines in there that need to be maintained throughout the year. So they have millwrights on hand that go in and perform that work. You're dealing with something that took 4 years to build, just the turbine itself that generates the electricity. Turbine took about 4 years to build and cost several $1,000,000. So that has to be maintained and installed by someone that's specifically trained to do it. Millwrights are kind of like machinists of the construction industry. They do a lot of precision alignment. They do a lot of machinery installation and heavy rigging. So if there's anyone that has an interest in turning wrenches and getting dirty with machines and parts that move, millwright might be a good trade for you. Also, we have pile drivers, and pile drivers maneuver machinery to drive metal, concrete, or wood piling into the earth during the very early stages of construction. Pile drivers are there usually before carpenters ever show up. But pile drivers, they have to drive some equipment, and by driving it, they use a crane that lifts up a huge hammer, picks it up and drops it just like a hammer. That's a pile driving hammer. It's picked up by a crane and dropped, and they drive piling into the ground, usually along a shoreline or where there isn't good foundation to build a building on, and they drive it down sometimes several hundred feet until they hit solid earth, and then they can start building the building on top of that. Some of our pile drivers these days, because we live on the north coast of Ohio, some of our pile drivers are even underwater welders, and they do bridge inspections underwater. And they do a lot of construction on the waterfront. Some of them that are divers. It's a special premium pay rate when they are in the water. And there's only a certain number of hours they're allowed to be in the water. So that's a completely different aspect of our trade. And floor coverers, they're responsible for installing any sort of flooring material that you could attach to a floor. So whether it's carpet or laminate or vinyl, whether it's in individual squares or big rolls of vinyl or rubber flooring. They also install wood flooring in schools and homes, and new sports type flooring. The new type of AstroTurf gets installed by our floor layers. And they even do hardwood floors in sports arenas and high schools, as well as floors in hospitals and homes. Questions so far?
Great.
All right.
Thanks, Dan. With that, I'm going to stop sharing the agenda for a minute, and then just give me a second, and I'll take us into the video for everyone to watch. It's about 3.5 minutes. Let's see. Can you see this?
Yes.
All right, great, thank you. I'm gonna put this in bigger.
Do you get bored in the classroom and learn more when it's hands-on? Are you always looking for your next adventure? Are you sick of your parents yelling at you all the time for playing too much Fortnite? Well, here's something you can build that they'll be proud of. A career in the Carpenters Union is a career full of endless possibilities. Almost as endless as, well, this. You have a chance to create a career path that's perfect for you. You'll get to build homes, schools, malls, airports, hospitals, stadiums, skyscrapers, and so much more. And here's where you'll learn to do it. This is one of our 13 training centers where students from Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio become apprentices to learn about the trades. As a carpenter, you won't just be cutting wood and hammering nails. Carpenters are a part of nearly every part of building a project from start to finish. Carpenters learn about concrete to build large bridges and massive highways. They also build scaffolds to help build the tallest skyscrapers. Some carpenters even go into finish work that create the details in the most beautiful hotels and even the suites in First Energy Stadium. As a floor coverer, you can let your creativity and precision shine. Floor coverers lay concrete and flooring in hospitals, schools, and other cool places that you might recognize. Like the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, where the Cavaliers rule the court. As a millwright, there's nothing that you can't do. Using mathematics, science, and precision, millwrights use their skills to weld and create machinery like wind turbines that help power your houses and the world. And even robots called mechatronics to help build cars. You think that's cool? They can even weld metal underwater. As an apprentice, you'll only be in classes for 4 weeks out of a year. That means say goodbye to this and hello to hands-on learning, where you make money while you learn. At the end of your 4-year apprenticeship, you'll leave with a debt-free college degree in applied science from Ivy Tech. Don't settle for a boring career. Live life on the edge as a union carpenter, millwright, or floor coverer.
All right. So with that, give me 1 minute.
It's my turn.
I'll bring this back up. Certainly, if there's any questions along the way, I know we've said it before, but you can always shoot us a question in the chat and we'll watch that as well throughout the rest of the event. And with that, I want to turn it over to Lauren, who introduced herself a few minutes ago. She's just going to give you, she's going to talk with you about why she likes being in this program. She is just done with, and she's now officially a journeyman, and just what she's been exposed to, what, she likes and the benefits, and maybe some of the surprises along the way that she saw over the last few years. So Lauren, it's all yours.
How you doing? I'm Lauren once again. I got into this trade, this industry about 5 years ago. I completed my apprenticeship last January. I journeyed out. Just a little background of how I got in. I had just relocated back here from Chicago, and my pastor had brought it to my attention that they were looking for minorities to get into construction. So I took a class with the Urban League of Greater Cleveland, also affiliated with CEA. It was a 4-week work readiness class. We had the opportunity to go visit the different apprenticeships, the plumbers program, the electricians, and we were able, and amongst others, and we were able to choose what trade we wanted to get into. And I took a liking to the carpentry industry. I started out for 2 years doing concrete form work, though that consists of like the retaining walls, the foundation of a building. I formed a lot of those. I also did bridge work. I worked on the I think it was I-77 bridge. I did work
490.
Okay, yeah, 77 490. I knew it had a 7 in it, but the 77 490 bridge. Also did some scaffold work. I've traveled, and right now I am doing interior work for Regency Construction Services. I'm down at the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland. I've been doing drywall metal studs, which if you don't know, that's pretty much a wall. The same walls that are in your classrooms, in your homes. And we've also been doing ceilings, same ones that are in your classrooms and in your homes. It's this industry, I would have to say, like this field, being a carpenter has been so rewarding. The surprises that I've come to see, probably, I don't know how much I enjoy it. I honestly didn't think that I would enjoy it because I prior to being in this industry, I never saw any females. So I felt like you had to be like super macho man, muscular, and to know that I can still remain feminine in this industry, keep my nails polished, lip gloss popping if you haven't noticed. It's great. It's great. I love it. Now to sweeten the deal, let's talk about the pay. So when I first got in, I started out at like 12 and some change. Now, when you get in, like your first day on the job, making over $19 an hour, like literally, like graduation can be on Wednesday, Thursday, when you step on the field with your basic hand tools, which are a tool belt, a hammer, a combination square, and a measuring tape. You are making $19 and some change. Like, where they do that at? They don't. It is like there's so many benefits. And 4 years later, here I am making over $30 an hour, no debt. I really can't say enough. And then like just to be on sites where you're working with people, like the site that I'm on now, the people that I'm working with are great, which makes the day even better. Like my team now is like second to none. I want to say it's probably one of the best teams that I've worked with in I want to say since I've been in. Like we really gel well together, and it makes going to work pleasurable. You have your good days. I'm not going to sit up here and make it seem like it's just easy. You have your good days, you have your bad days, but the good days definitely outweigh the bad. It's not, you will definitely get stronger physically, mentally, and emotionally. Like it's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's definitely worth it. The benefits, I've had no issues when I've had to go to the doctor, dental coverage, all of that. Like I could go on and on. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Whatever you are second guessing, whatever you want to know, I want to answer. Yeah, so if you have any questions, just put them in the chat.
And Lauren, how were, when you came on, and you were new onto a job site, younger, and did people reach out to you? Some of the more senior folks, were they good about helping and showing you, tips and tricks along the way? How was the camaraderie like on some of the different job sites?
Oh, there were a lot of helpful guys that like literally took my hand and was like, this is how you do this and this is how you do that. Like they were very welcoming. There were some that weren't, but the welcoming people were definitely outweighed the ones that, were a little difficult, but we got through it.
And you felt like you could always ask questions. And how was the flow when you were going, from the job site to then the classroom, and how did that flow? Was good overall? You felt like you were supported when you were doing the classroom as well as then coming back onto the job site?
Oh, absolutely. I got the most support from the schools. Like anytime I needed to speak to an instructor after class, Dan, who has already mentioned, he's the director. I abused the open door policy with him. So it was beautiful. Like whatever questions or whatever issues I may have had, I promise, and I'm not even just saying this, I got an answer by the end of the day or within the hour. And like I said, just go talk to Dan. Whatever you need, call Dan.
Great. All right. Well, I appreciate that. Anything else you'd like to pass on to the students?
Go for it. I don't want you to feel like college is the only option. I know when I was in high school as a senior, I knew nothing about the trades. I knew nothing about this industry. I didn't have the program or anyone speaking to me like I am now. Please know that if you don't go to college, it does not make you any less of a person. As far as the person that's going to college, they're no better than you. If anything, join the trade. You will have no debt. I literally have zero debt. Going through this program and going through this apprenticeship, and I'm making great money, great benefits. Like it's definitely an option that you should consider.
Great. Well, thank you. So we're gonna now have you hear a little bit from David Knight, and David is a senior tradesperson. So he's gonna share with you, he's had a good 20+ years experience and a lot of good stories, but again, he's also going to share with why he got into this, how he got into it, and what he thinks as well are the benefits and some of the things he's really been surprised along the way. So David, I'm turning it over to you.
Thanks, Cynthia. When I first started, even before that, Lauren had just mentioned that college isn't the only option that's out there. When I went to high school, college was the only option. It was college prep classes, and that's all there was. There was never discussion about anything else. They had virtually just eliminated the shop programs from our schools, and everyone was going to college. I had a neighbor who was a police officer, and when I was about 15 or 16, I started working for him summers and weekends, just doing, helper stuff, because he ran a small construction company. He was a certified electrician that did some carpentry stuff. So I'd work with him on weekends, work with him over summers and breaks. Graduated from high school, went on to college, was over at Baldwin Wallace, and didn't like it at all. As Lauren mentioned, I kind of decided right then and there that college wasn't for me. So I went to work. This is my second career. My first career ended up not faring so well because my employer went completely bankrupt, and it wasn't an industry where you could just grab your stuff today and go to work for somebody tomorrow. So there wasn't a lot of people that were hiring. So I had really enjoyed working for the neighbor and sort of looked at what construction would offer. At this point, I knew nothing about the Carpenters Union. Went to work for a company out of Boardman. Worked sort of between Boardman, Summit County, Portage County, at that kind of area over there, and really liked it. I did a bit of concrete formwork. I did a lot of framing, actually a lot of wood framing and a lot of structural framing. We got into finish work, and it was actually on a job in Cleveland where a now retired business rep, Don Galley, stopped in. We got to talking, and I was running a crew of 6 carpenters. We get to talking, and the next thing I know, I'm filling out an application, sitting down at the hall. I get set up with a contractor, a union contractor, and I never looked back. My career took off. I'm doing things today that even 5 years ago I would never have imagined even possible. One of the nice things about the carpentry trade is that your work is really, you get a wide angle lens to look through, man. You're not just concentrating on one thing. Lauren mentioned that she started off doing concrete formwork, and today she's doing ceilings, and tomorrow could be doing crown mold. That's literally the scope or the breadth of work that we have to do. You'll get your training through the apprenticeship program. You don't have to pay tuition for it. You don't have to pay for it. You'll learn the skills in class. You'll turn around and work with journeymen, like me or like Lauren out in the field. And most of your training is going to take place in the field. But what I really like is actually, and I know this sounds maybe a little bit crazy, but I love driving around the city with my daughter or my son saying, I remember when you were working there. I remember when that building didn't even have a roof on it. And it's pretty cool to drive past I was just about to name a specific job, but any of the hospitals, and say, I remember, when that building was just coming out of the ground. I remember when I was installing cabinets in there. I remember doing the finished crown or doing this or whatever. So it's really cool to just kind of walk around and take a look, drive around and check out some of the stuff that you've done. Pay is wonderful. I think Dan actually put in there that our pay rate now is like $32.40 an hour. And that's for every journeyman working in the Cleveland area. I think the other nice thing that's about our union, the way things that work, is you do well, you excel, all of a sudden you become a lead carpenter, you become a journeyman lead carpenter, then you become a foreman. Well, when you're a foreman, your pay rate goes up because you've got more responsibility. You become a general foreman, now all of a sudden your benefits increase a bit. So, you're really not limited within this trade. You can pretty much do anything that you want to do. I've worked on everything from small office remodels to $3 million additions on a home to, I've been on the 48th floor of the terminal tower. I've been hanging off 12 stories in the air, working on a swing stage scaffold. Most recently on the what will be the largest mass timber project in the United States. You get to, and I've done miles and miles and miles of some of the most intricate trim, crown mold, architectural paneling that you could ever imagine. And I think that's one of the things that I really, really like, is just how much you can do. The pay is wonderful. The camaraderie is wonderful. Lauren mentioned that she's on a crew that gelled really well. I worked for years for a company that was a crew like that. We didn't start work till 6, but just about every one of us was there at 5 in the morning, We ate breakfast together, we read the newspaper together, and then we went to work together. And that's just kind of the way it was.
That's great. That's great. Um, any surprises over the years that you would share?
I think I think probably one of the best surprises, which really sort of showed me what people's human side could be like, was you would take somebody like Lauren who, maybe didn't know how to do something, or maybe you could tell that that apprentice that was working on the job didn't know what they were doing. And I'm really surprised at how many people were actually willing to help that person. Hey,
Right.
you're doing that wrong. When I was younger, it was, hey, stupid, come on. And it's just not like that anymore. People are more than happy to teach. And I think that's one of the nice surprises for me is the way that our trade has just encompassed younger generations and have figured out a way to communicate with them and say, hey, let me show you how to do this. That attitude of, I don't want to teach you because you'll take my job away is gone. And that is a really pleasant surprise for me.
That's great. And I think, overall, one of the other things, we've probably seen as well, many of us, certainly working with ACE and then through going through a lot of other organizations and having different construction projects that we've all been on. Again, down the road too, we see a lot of folks, some stay in the trades and they move up to foreman and supervisor, and they're doing that for years and they retire with the trades, and others also figure out at some point that they're going to run their own business, right? And they're going to, start up their own firm. And that's another option, again, as you had experience. So those are all, good options, and like you said, and the breadth of what's actually offered within this particular trade is very wide. So you can really,
It is. And when you think about who's really truly running the construction sites,
Yeah.
Yep, we got engineers and architects that design stuff. We've got project managers that do the estimating and the overall construction and stuff. But I'll tell you who's really running it is that superintendent that's on site. The guy that gets the guy or woman that gets their boots dirty every day, that are the ones directing the foreman of all the different trades to get stuff done. And Terry, you might be in a better position to really nail down percentages here, but just a off the cuff guess, I would say probably better than 85% of the superintendents out there are carpenters.
Yeah.
They didn't come out of other trades. They came out of the carpentry trade.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Terry Rivera. So to David's comment that I was just thinking about my own firm, out of all of our project superintendents, all of them are union carpenters, came up through as journeyman and carpenter foreman, and then graduated to a project superintendent, with the exception of 2, run all of our projects. So yes, it's an important trade. Carpenters make, in my opinion, the best superintendents because they touch a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
You put a cabinet in, there might be plumbing in the cabinet, there might be electrical that needs to go into the cabinet. So they need to know a lot about the other trades that we're working in and around.
Gotcha. So they're good, because you said they touch so many different areas and they touch other areas like electrical and plumbing. Just the analytics and the job flow, they understand a lot of that. So they make very good superintendents on the job, which is great to hear. And again, you can be as involved and move up like that if you want to, or you don't have to. It's really depending on what's suited to your personality and what you like.
I've worked with carpenters who have just very narrowly done one thing for most of their life because that's what they were comfortable with. I've worked with other carpenters who have said, I've done this. I chose to go the route of trying to do a lot of stuff because when there was no more concrete formwork to do or no more drywall to do, there were other crews that I could go to, other companies that I could go to work for. I ended up advancing myself some more. Once I was in the trades and working well, I went back to college, got a degree. And, like I said, I wouldn't look back and I wouldn't change anything from the past, except for maybe doing this at 18 instead of waiting until I did it.
So there's a chat thing that comment that Ethan put in there saying, is there a way to do the exploration that Lauren did without joining the Urban League program? Ethan also makes a comment that his dad was a plumber, and he had some of the same experiences with driving around with him as well, you know, and knowing some of the jobs that he worked on as well, which is very cool. So as far as exploration, into the trades without necessarily joining the Urban League program. There are many programs, and I'll let you know, anyone who wants to pop in, comment on that as well. There are many programs. I mean, Tri-C has one, Lorraine Community College, Urban. But you can also just visit the training centers. Like, for instance, you can work through visiting Dan in this particular training center, and go spend half a day. Instead of doing a big tour, we're just doing it in small groups of 1 and 2 because of COVID, but you can visit. You can visit other training sites. And then I believe, and Dan, you correct me if I'm wrong, if you go to the training center and you visit and it looks like something you are genuinely interested in, then they can work with you at starting the application process and getting a sponsor, trying to find a sponsor from another company standpoint to get you sort of going and enrolled in the program. But I'm going to turn over to Dan.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. We encourage people, and in fact, Max Hayes will usually have a couple of their seniors that they know are leaning towards coming into the carpentry trade, and we do it with other schools around Greater Cleveland, and we'll host them for a day or a couple days or even a week, and they'll basically be immersed in an apprentice class, and we usually try and keep them with the newer apprentice classes so that they can see, hey, I'm really not that far behind where these people are now.
Right.
Our very first class where they do hands-on work, those people have been working in the field for about 4 or 5 months, and they're getting on the job training and on the job experience, and then they come in for that class, and as someone doing like we call it career exploration. Someone doing a career exploration is really just a couple months behind where that person is, and they get to kind of see the trade from a group of their peers, and you'll be using a certain number of tools in that career exploration period also. We're not going to have you do anything you're not comfortable doing or that we're not comfortable with you doing.
Right.
But absolutely, we have groups of scouts that come in pretty regularly. In fact, Dave has come in and help us with some of those where they're going for a woodworking badge or something like that. And a few years later, they're back as an apprentice, and it's pretty neat to see. But yeah, when you come in, even if you're just coming in to take a tour with a family member or somebody from school, absolutely come in and take a tour. I put our contact information in the chat. Call us. We can set something up when it's convenient for you. And
we're happy to also, from some of our my ACE committee, we're happy to, have a mentor assigned just to work with you and your family, make sure you stay connected to Dan or, to his group, and the process about graduating and whatnot, and just how you can go into the next steps and get started. Lauren raised her hand. I think she wanted to make a comment as well.
Hey, Ethan. Yeah, I would, piggybacking off what they said, I would suggest like calling like whatever trade you may think you may be into, like as far as plumbers, electricians, carpenters, floor layers, whatever it is that you think may pique your interest. I would call their hall, call their school, their apprenticeship program, and set up an appointment, because with COVID and everything now, you can't, a lot of places don't allow you to just walk in and say,
Right.
I'm here. So I would call, set up an appointment, and I'm pretty sure they would be glad to invite you in, and you can ask as many questions as you like. And you typically know, like, all right, once like the professional or whoever it is you speak to, once they start talking and giving you a tour, you kind of know like, is this the route that I want to go? You know, you have an idea. So I would definitely, you know, like I said, call those places, do a tour, because that's all we did. It was just set up by the program. But yeah, we went and we talked to the professionals from those trades for about an hour, 2 hours or so, asked the questions that we wanted, and that was the information that we left with, and then we made our decision from there. So I definitely suggest that.
Glenn, you wanted to also make a comment?
Sure. I mean, good first step is what you're doing today, right?
Yeah.
Just being on this call, picking up information. What exists that probably didn't exist when Dan and I were growing up is the power of YouTube, right? That you can almost Google anything and find out, pick the subject, topic, trade, and get some information to help you narrow down the process. There's also a program, and I'll enter it in the chat that we support, which is called the clevelandbuilds.org. And that's meant to be a comprehensive construction career pathway website where you can survey, get information, get links to when can you go to the carpenters, when are they taking applications versus the pipe fitters, plumbers, right? So all that information is there. And there are some fact sheets for a lot of the trades that will help you kind of understand what they do. In many cases, again, there's videos of tradespersons from Greater Cleveland, or what's a foreman or superintendent or a project manager do. So it's meant to be through clevelandbuilds.org. You find a great resource that also will link you if you want more information, if you want somebody to contact you, to engage with you, someone will follow up with you through that process. You know, I can't speak for Dan or the Carpenters Training Center, but you know, scheduling something is probably the preferred route versus just showing up random on any given day or time.
Yeah.
Dan may be out fishing somewhere on that day and may not be in the office able to, to show you around. So I would encourage you to try to the point that he has his contact information, or you'll find it for Cleveland Builds, that if you want to, you know, do some research and find that information that interests you, that would be helpful. Other thing I'd say to you though is that the program Lauren went through at the Urban League, there's also one through the Spanish American Committee over on 44th and Lorraine, Latino Construction Program. Tri-C has one. And truly the benefit of that is maybe before you make a singular commitment to a singular trade, that you'll get maybe some additional math skills and preparation that'll help you with testing. You'll get exposure to some other trades. You'll learn a little bit more about union construction and why that we believe that's the right career path or choice to make. And so that extra time you take for a program that Lauren went through and several others, which is not required, but is really meant to be informing and helpful, you know, it's a benefit. Sometimes it comes with some additional financial resources for participating in those programs. And there are programs, trades, when I say this, like cement masons have their own pre-apprenticeship program. Specifically, it's a 6-week program to learn how to be a cement mason or to learn how to be a bricklayer. It's basically you go show up for 6 weeks, you won't get paid, but if you complete the program and if it is something you like, you're automatically, maybe not indentured, but placed into the regular apprenticeship program. So there's multiple pre-apprenticeship program models that are out there, but I would encourage you to really try to look at lots of options and lots of possibilities for what might be best for you.
Great. Really, we wanted to, before we do our wrap up, just anyone else on that wanted to share a story, you know, as far as either, you know, again, you know, why they got into the trades or how their journey was to get into this industry. And, you know, and then we'll do a wrap up, just sort of reminding what information is out there and available for next steps. I guess I would say that, you know, I had wished I had knowledge of the industry and the construction systems and just all of the different profiles earlier. You know, even though I was exposed to a lot from the steel mills and from my dad and from my grandfather. When I went to school, when I went to college, I was not exposed some of the programs, the construction programs that were out there that I think I would have really enjoyed. So, you know, it really is about exposure, which is why we're here today. And then with, you know, working with the ACE, if any of you are ACE students, there's also the possibility of additional scholarships, you know, down this path. And even if you're not, there's a lot of different opportunities for financial aid and scholarship, and we can also help work with that. And then we have partners in this program. So, for example, one of our partners on the ACE is the UH Hospital, and Sodexo is their construction group that works with the UH hospitals, and they're interested again and seeing what's going on with these programs that we're doing here, and they're looking again to try to sponsor some folks. So that's an opportunity. You know, that might be one of the employers that's willing to sponsor one of our new students. So that would be great. But if not, there are a lot of great companies of all sizes out there that are looking for to sponsor someone and to sort of get them into the trade. So anybody else, Glenn or Dan? Any other comments?
No, my last comment is one that a carpenter who owns a business is sort of shared. And I think Lauren touched on a little bit of this, and maybe Dan yourself. I mean, where you start isn't where you finish, basically, right? So you start not knowing anything. Good money, to Lauren's point and to David's point, you know, and Dan, what the salary can become. But you know, you can become a foreman, a superintendent. You don't always have to continue being a tradesperson, a carpenter, right? You could end up being a Terry Rivera, owning a company,
Right.
right? Where other people are doing the work and you're managing them, right? And so, and you can do all of that coming out of high school with no degree, with no debt. So Shakori Davis, Dan, is a gentleman I want to talk about. He talks about the math of going to college versus being a tradesperson, right? So you go to college and maybe through Say Yes, you get free scholarships. And so you don't have the debt per se because you're going to get a free scholarship. But even if you just have room and board, books and things of that nature that you have to cover and pay for. And if that runs $10,000 a year for 4 years and you're going to be out of $40,000 or $50,000. On the other hand, if you take the pay at $20 an hour in your first year, you might make $35,000. The next year, maybe you make $45,000. Your third year, you've made $55,000, $60,000. So in 3 to 4 years, you know, you've made whatever that adds up to be, $175,000 versus you spent $40,000 or $50,000, right? So you have to ask yourself, how long will it take for me to get $200,000 in my pocket by going the route of a trade versus going to college? Now, it's not for everybody. It is, you know, maybe physical and days that it's hot and cold and, you know, other temperature things, but it's both financially and I think to David and Lauren's point, personally rewarding in terms of the contributions and other aspects that you make. So we're really not, we are trying to sell you, but we want you to make a good career choice and be well informed. And again, please feel free to contact any of us and I'm sure we'll be glad to assist you.
Cindy, I was also going to add, and it's really been said by Lauren and David, but for me, the most exciting part of being in construction is really how dynamic it is. It's so interesting. Every project is different. Even if it's, you know, 2 schools in a row, or building 2 schools in a row are never the same.
Yeah.
Every project has different people that you get to meet and interact with. Every project has different materials that you learn about. And so it really is an industry that, you know, is challenging, but at the same time is very interesting and exciting to be party to. You know, and as David said, it is really fun to be able to drive around town and say, you know, I was part of that project.
Right. No, that's a really good point. And I appreciate you bringing that up because I think we all feel that and we're all in slightly different roles, but it's never the same day, you know, 2 days in a row. It's never boring. And even when you're on the same job, it doesn't matter. You know, you could be on some of these projects are 3, 4, 5, 6 years, but it's just amazing how it morphs and changes so much. And so, yes, so it is, and it's not boring. It is rewarding, as you've already heard. It's rewarding if you can see what you're building. You can see as it really, you look back in 6 months and you look back and you see what you're building. It's rewarding to see the planning stages of it. It's rewarding to drive by it when it's all done. And, but if you end up with some colleagues, some friends along the way too, you know, so for all those reasons, you know, and of course, you know, good salary, no debt. It's, you know, long-term, I know as students, you're not thinking about debt and stuff like that. I know, but in a few years, you know, if you got your apartment and your car and all the stuff, you're not going to want to have that kind of debt. You're going to want to be able to spend your money. So, I wanted to thank everyone. Yes, and William was asking if he can get a copy of the presentation. Absolutely. What I'll do is in a couple days, we can send out, Courtney and I will work so that we send out the recording to everybody that was on here, to the students that are on here. In addition, again, I believe Dan has put his information in the chat. If you need it again, I'm going to email you all and I can send you Dan's information, send you my information. And we can help connect you if you want to do a tour. If you want to specifically do a tour of Dan's training center and set up a next step, we can help with that. If you are interested in trades, but maybe it's not this one, we have another one coming up on March 24th, which is about the finishing trades. We do have a recording of the bricklayers and the masonry. And there are others that we can connect you to. There's other Dan Sustins, other training directors that we can connect you to. So, so I'll make sure you have Dan's information, my information, as well as you can have we'll make sure that you have, you know, the recordings as well. We'll get the recordings out to everybody. With that, I want to thank our presenters. I want to thank everyone who joined us and the students. Thank you for taking this first step. I think that's awesome that, you know, you're on and you're just open and you want to hear about this possibility. It's a great first step. So thank you all. Any other last comments? All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate everyone's time. Bye-bye.
All
Thanks,
right,
Cindy.
thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.